3 minutes until showtime. Two minutes until showtime. One minute until showtime. Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Election 2024 is over. America has voted, and both sexism and racism have won the day. On Liberal Dan Radio, we will hold everyone accountable, from the media that failed to report the threat that Trump poses to this nation, to the people who supported him. We will pick up the mantle to educate the people about his actions, from being dictator on day one, pardoning January 6th domestic terrorists, implementing Project 2025, and any other draconian measures he tries to pass. And now, the resistance begins. Welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you live from New Orleans, Louisiana. To join the conversation, it's area code 914-803-4131, 914-803-4131. This is, again, we'll have just about 2 months left on Blog Talk Radio until it sails off into the sunset. We barely knew ye. But, you know, we'll be setting up other alternatives for getting calls in and soundboards and all that other fun stuff. We'll be working on that in the next upcoming months to make sure that we can still have all the things that, you know, try and make my show what it is. One of the things that I do with my show that I've found others not doing, Hal the exception, is that despite being monetized, I do not have live ads rolling midstream, because there's no reason for you to have to see ads midstream. It cuts you off. It stops you from seeing whatever content is being shown, and who wants that, right? So I'm potentially giving up a little bit of money to help y'all enjoy the show even more. If you want to support the show, you can do so. Best you can do: like, subscribe, share videos, get your friends to hop on board, become liberal Danimals themselves. You could subscribe. You could be a member here, little as $2 a month. You could be a liberal Danimal here on YouTube. If you have Amazon Prime, you could subscribe over to the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/liberaldanradio as well. You can, it's free to do it if you have Amazon Prime. Otherwise, it's the basic membership rate. You can also Venmo, Liberal Dan on Venmo, or on Buy Me a Cider. Go to liberaldan.com, click the Buy Me a Cider button, or go to buymeacoffee.com/liberaldanradio. Either way gets you there, or you can support me on a month-to-month basis by doing go to patreon.com/liberaldan or patreon.liberaldan.com. Either way will get you there. Let's see. Shouts out to everybody. We got CR, Josh, Steve from across the pond, Mad Mac, Suzanne, Botrix. We got them. One half of the mod squad: Aaron, West, Nick, Jeff. Let's see. I think I've hit everybody that has said hello in chat so far. Again, remember to smash that like button and then the patriarchy. Of course, with looking at who's coming into the Donald Trump administration, be it cabinet members, advisors, or administration officials, we're going to have a lot of things to talk about on today's show, as you can see up above the main topic of the show. What's up, Ranger Goose Man over on Twitch? Thank you for joining us over there as well. Hey, Darcy, I'm glad someone in Ojeda chat said to come listen. I appreciate you. Welcome. Welcome to the family. We go live Mondays and Wednesdays at this point, 8 p.m. Central, each and every week, unless there's a power outage or I'm on vacation or whatever it is. So thank you for joining. Please remember to smash that like button and hit subscribe so you can get notified as to whenever we get live videos, and of course other videos as well that I produce over the course of the duration of the show. Some old ones, some new ones, etc. There's a best of tab or best of playlist where I put some of the shows that I feel are, you know, some of the best. I think I need to add one or two of them. There's like shows, there's bits, there's short clips, longer clips that aren't full shows, all up on the playlist. There's also things that I do. I have Fat Man Rants, where I just become a little more ranty, and I've had to do that because, hey, Nick, thank you for gifting the membership. Fat Man Rants, just a rant about things where I become a little more animated about it, and I know I'm going to be a little animated about it. Sometimes I've recorded a thing that I was doing on live because I was like, okay, this is pissing me off. Let's make a rant live in person. Otherwise, sometimes I'll do it when I'm offline. We got Coming to Terms with Activism, where we take terms that some people have issues with and explain what they really mean. We have Unraveling Toxic Masculinity, a playlist that's devoted to hearing what some of these toxic incel, MGTOW, red pill type folks want to say, and then countering those with, you know, the real answers as to why they're so, you know, fragile. But of course, the main topic here is politics, and we discuss politics all the time. A lot of times, usually it's state. You have federal issues, global issues. Sometimes it's state issues. We're going to be having an interesting show on Wednesday. So if anybody has heard about what happened in New Orleans, there is a Taylor Swift fan who put together like 191 rooms at one of the local hotels, and it became a big shit show, basically. And this person, in my opinion, scammed me before, and there's a lot of other people now who are feeling quite scammed, and it was not the way to treat people visiting our city. We're going to go more into that on Wednesday. It'll be the first part of the show. So, but I mean, there's lots of tea, and it gets very spicy, if you will. Just what's going on. There's screenshots from inside this group. We're going to be going over all of that on Wednesday, and then we'll talk about other political stuff afterwards. But I'm looking forward to it. It should be a good show. We'll have our second live video guest on the air as well. So we will be, it'll be an interesting show to say the least. I mean, I'm not a huge Swiftie. I mean, I like some Taylor Swift songs. Who doesn't? I mean, maybe MAGA conservatives, but I'm not a huge Swiftie, but I do appreciate what she's done in the city for helping out, people with meals. I do appreciate the economic driver that she did to this city. A lot of businesses made a lot of good money because of her coming here. A lot of the fans were great. Unfortunately, this one fan that lives here in New Orleans apparently wasn't so great, and we'll be going over that on Wednesday's show at the beginning. Let's see. Kimchi, what's the goddess Kimchi is in the chat? Welcome, goddess. Jackie is here as well. TV2 Live, shouts out to TV2 Live. I think there's a link to your page over on the Friends of the Show tab on liberaldan.com. You can check that out as well. Check out all the people who I like, or most of the people that I like. There might be some missing. We'll have to add those as they come in. And of course, I am on Blue Sky as well. Same handle as everyone else. Liberal Dan Radio. Liberal Dan Radio on Blue Sky. Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, etc. So, Costco shopping for hotties. You're at Costco. Are you at Costco shopping for hotties, or are you saying that Costco is where hotties shop? That's a good question. Going to give it a few more minutes. Let some more people trickle in to the show before we get to the main topic of the show. I guess personal life things. I've been on Zepbound for about 5 weeks now. It is an injection that I was working on. I was fighting on the previous doctor's office. I still have the same doctor, but she moved offices. The previous doctor's office screwed up the prior authorization, so I had to go without it for 6 months, not be able to get on it for 6 months. Now I'm starting it, and I'm on the second higher level dose. Apparently when you're on Zepbound, you start like at 5 milligrams and go to 7.5, 10, 12.5, etc. So every 4 weeks you step up. Problem is that according to the formulary for next year's plan, it doesn't list Zepbound, and my benefits manager is waiting to hear back as to whether or not it's going to be covered. Of course, Zepbound's also not listed on this year's schedule of what is covered as well, so that makes me think a little more optimistic than I normally would be, because it can't be we couldn't find it any other way. So we'll see about that. But my work plan is getting worse as well. The price is going up. It's almost like it'll be basically $1,000 a month now for me to have health insurance, unless I switch back to the HSA plan variety, which is a low premium, high deductible, or lower premium, I should say, higher deductible plan that, is, good for some people, not good for others, and I have to do the math to figure out if the high deductible, lower premium plan is going to be a better fit for me and my family. So, let's see. A lot of people with large pantries shop at Costco. My pantry is supposed to be an office, but it's just TP and PT mostly. Nice. Kimchi says both. It's where you go shop for hotties and where the hotties shop. Well, if it's where the hotties shop, then I guess I'm a hottie because I shop at Costco as well. Haha. You don't have any pantries? Hopefully people read that right, because if I read it first, I was like, what? No, never mind. That's not what she said. Big Hook's here. Good welcome, Big Hook. Big Hook, appreciate you, friend from the north, friend from up in the Great White North, north of, us, are the upstairs neighbor to the meth lab now, and so there's that. Anyway, first things first. Let's talk about one of Donald Trump's picks that I don't believe has. I don't believe there's anything over her head dealing with problems with understanding consent or not. I mean, she did support Donald Trump, and that's problematic in and of itself. But Donald Trump has named Caroline Leavitt. I say, hold on, see if that's. Donald Trump has named Caroline Leavitt to be the youngest ever White House press secretary. She ran for Congress up north, I think in New Hampshire. She won the GOP primary, but lost to the Democratic incumbent. She is currently the spokesperson for the a spokesperson. I don't think the spokesperson, but a spokesperson for Trump's transition team. She was his campaign press secretary, and she is going to be his White House press secretary. And I am predicting that because she is young and pretty, that she maybe is in line to be Trump's fourth wife. Because Melania is going to get old enough at some point where he's going to have to, trade her in for a newer model, so to speak. And I would expect that this type of woman would be, somebody that he would be very happy to be with. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about why. Maybe, she's very well qualified, but I don't think that matters to Donald Trump. That's the thing. Well qualified is clearly not a standard that Donald Trump is using for picking his cabinet, for picking his advisors, for picking the staff in his administration, including. So again, she may very well be a very good person to be a press secretary. I guarantee you that's not the reason why she's getting picked. Just like I guarantee you that Matt Gaetz is not getting picked because he's a good qualified person for attorney general. He's being picked because he's a loyalist and he's going to have his back, as some folks have said on some of the local radio, that he will be his wingman, so to speak. RFK Jr., not qualified to be in charge of anything relating to health and the Department of Health, but there he is. Old Pete Hegseth. I don't know if a weekend Fox News anchor is going to be somebody who is well qualified to be in the administration as Secretary of Defense. One would think that one would want to have somebody who had service within the Defense Department and elevate up from there, maybe. But yeah, qualifications for a job is something that Donald Trump does not look for, primarily when it comes to who he picks for a job. And he blew through press secretaries last time like toilet paper. And we didn't have much toilet paper at the end of it anyway, because of COVID and his mishandling of it. But, congratulations to her if that's the job that she wants, and she got it. Good for her. I was half expecting it to be Kari Lake, simply because of the fact that Kari Lake is also a Trump loyalist, and she's also involved, has been involved in the media for, I guess, a longer time. But, he has his picks, and this is who he picked. And again, under any other president, I would be like, I'm sure she's well qualified for the position. I'm sure she's well qualified, and her looks have nothing to do with it. Under the Donald Trump administration, however, I'm sure her looks had everything to do with it. And we'll see. We'll see if I'm wrong after 4 years. We'll see if or more. We'll see if he decides to trade in Melania for a newer model. So anyway. Carrie Lake is too old for Trump. Yeah, that's the other thing I could have brought up is that, yeah, Carrie Lake is old for Trump, and probably why he wouldn't trade in Melania for her. But still, I was sitting here naively thinking that Carrie Lake's experience within media in and of itself would be enough to say, okay, this is who he's picking. And for silly me, it's never about criteria. It's never about who's qualified for the job. It's about who's going to be loyal, who's going to be, and I guess in some positions for the women he appoints, probably who's going to be the hottest. And there we go. I mean, again, under anybody else, I think anybody saying that would probably be seen as sexist, because people should be looked at as for the qualifications, especially women, and women for far too long have been looked at purely on their looks and not based on what they bring to the table. A lot of times people have issues taking women seriously who apply for positions because of the patriarchal standards we have in our society. Anybody else, I would be like, you know what, that's not a cool thing to say. But with Donald Trump and his track record, I think it's fair to say, because again, you look at the men and women that he's appointed, and you wonder what the hell is he thinking. That of course assumes that he's thinking it all with his bigger brain, supposedly. So, Jeff, I bet Trump is not taking calls from Mike Pillow. Probably not. I mean, but then again, Mike Pillow's Nazi ads didn't seem to, take anybody away from supporting Donald Trump. So, excuse me. Who's going to dunk for McDonald's fries? Speaking of McDonald's, again, yeah, RFK Jr. sitting there, and, he's talking about how fast food is poison, McDonald's is poison, this, that. He's talking about all the poisons that we get in our system, and Donald Trump wants to put him in charge of health. Of course, what do you see him eating when he's on the plane with Donald Trump? McDonald's. Hypocrisy is the conservative prerequisite. That's all there is to it. Hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. And but there's more to RFK Jr. to get to the topic of the show, which is Donald Trump and the Trump administration, and is consent going to be an issue during the next 4 years once he takes office? Because there are lots of concerns that a lot of people can have about consent within his administration, and as a matter of policy, wherever that policy may go. Donald Trump and his administration are showing that they're not going to be ones that respect consent. And let's start with RFK Jr. Not the one that everybody probably assumed that I was going to start with, but we're still going to start with RFK Jr. nonetheless. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. texted apology to woman he allegedly sexually assaulted, both the Washington Post and NBC News report. The woman came forward with allegation of Vanity Fair earlier in the month. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. apologized last week to a woman he allegedly sexually assaulted in the late 1990s, according to a text message seen by Washington Post and NBC News. Eliza Cooney told Vanity Fair, that Kennedy forcibly groped her when she was in her 20s and worked for the Kennedy family as a babysitter. Of course, he says, "I have no memory of this incident. I apologize sincerely for anything I ever did that made you feel uncomfortable, or anything I did or said that offended you or hurt your feelings." Of course, remember, when Tara Reade came forward, she claimed that Biden did all of that to her. The media reports looked at what she said and showed it as being unreliable, but they don't care about that. The people who care about, attacking Joe Biden just care about the fact that somebody came forward. Well, here's somebody came forward. Are they going to go now turn on Kennedy? Of course not. Why? Because Kennedy is Trump's boy. Kennedy campaign manager Amaryllis Fox Kennedy, press secretary Stephanie Spear, and communication director Del Bigtree did not respond to requests for comment. Vanity Fair article details allegations that Kennedy made physical advances with Cooney on multiple occasions, including rubbing her leg under a table, approaching her from behind, and then running his hands on her body and other parts. Kennedy gave an interview to the Breaking Points podcast shortly after the article, which he called the Vanity Fair article a lot of garbage, but he conceded that he's not a church boy. Kennedy's history of infidelity during second marriage to Mary Richardson Kennedy was widely reported in tabloids after the divorce. Of course, infidelity is not sexual groping or unwanted sexual advances or touches or anything. Infidelity may be something that's, not cool, but it is not sexual assault or rape. What's being alleged here is sexual assault. So RFK Jr. continues to offer dismissive and inadequate excuses in response to these sexual assault allegations, says Matt Corradoni, a spokesperson for the DNC, in a statement. Like Donald Trump, RFK Jr. has not only plagued by scandal and a closet full of skeletons, but he has no shame or regard for the women he assaulted and harassed. So, and he's going to be in charge, what, of the Department of Health? Department of Health and Human Services? How are they going to handle, issues dealing with, consent and sexual assault and rape? And how are they going to look at these things and tackle these things? Will anybody take him seriously? I mean, probably not, but will anybody take him seriously on what he says about, or what his office says about when it comes to sexual health and especially issues of consent? Because I'm sure HHS has lots of things out there published about consent. Will they just be wrapped up and be, put away because of the conservative aversion to the Me Too movement, or are they going to be there whilst these allegations hang over his head? What's up, Kevin? Good to see you. You may not be able to afford McDonald's soon if Trump destroys the economy as quickly as predicted. Yes. Ooh, I didn't realize that, Ranger Goose. I'll include that when I get to the next person, or when I get to Gaetz. I think Gaetz may be the last person I get to when it comes to this. They'll rename everything as Derpartment. Yeah. Let's see. I don't like McDonald's. I don't like salt. My heart doctor says stay away from salt, hence their salt burgers. Well, the thing is, like, one of the thing is, if you are sitting on a plane with MAGA von Schitz's pants and you are offered a hamburger, are you going to say no to said hamburger, or are you going to accept the hamburger and just grin it up, just chalk it up to just a once-in-a-lifetime thing, so to speak? Then again, it could very well be that he eats McDonald's all the time and is just a hypocrite. Wouldn't it be shocking? Hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. Hamburger tartare. I don't know what that's about, but yeah. Let's see. He is pro-choice, so laud him as a traitor to the cause. Yeah, I mean, pro-choice is typically, and that, I'm wondering how many conservatives are going to have an issue again with RFK's being pro-choice, and being put in the Trump administration that Trump lauds. It was him that helped overturn Roe v. Wade, and now these draconian abortion bans are now on the table. So, but yeah, I mean, pro-choice. When you say pro-choice, it's typically pro-choice on the issue of abortion. So it's kind of difficult to say, okay, well, you're not pro-choice about other things that aren't related to abortion. Pro-choice is pretty much just something that's relegated to abortion, and it's only when people are trying to make some sort of point that they go outside of the abortion arena. Conservatives do it with gun control. Well, you're pro-choice, but you're not pro-choice about guns. I'm like, well, if somebody's pregnant with a gun and they want to abort it, more power to them. Wait, what's up with Moskowitz saying he supports Gaetz as AG? I had not heard that. Let me crack open this. I'll be very disappointed at that. We will see what it says. The Hill. Moskowitz on Gaetz nomination. Of course, he's in the House, and he has no role to play when it comes to the confirming of any Trump appointee. Let's see. Moskowitz on Gaetz' nomination election have consequences, according to The Hill. Representative Jared Moskowitz on Wednesday said elections have consequences when asked about President Trump's choice of Rep. Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. Donald Trump is very intentional with his pick, Moskowitz said when asked by News Nation about Gaetz' possible new role, labeling the Republican representative as fiercely loyal and fiercely competent. Donald Trump told the American people what he wanted to do. He added that was on the ballot. Elections have consequences. On Wednesday, Trump announced he selected Gaetz. Matt is a deeply gifted and tenacious attorney trained at the William & Mary College of Law who has distinguished himself with Congress through focus on achieving desperately needed reform in the Department of Justice. Oh, Trump wrote on Truth Social. I was about to say, is this Moskowitz saying this? No, that's what Trump said. Moskowitz noted that he is working with Gaetz in the House and the Florida State Legislature, mentioning that he knows the potential Attorney General pretty well. Matt was a part of getting me confirmed when he was part of the transition team for Ron DeSantis to become the emergency management director in Florida. So it was just scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Gaetz is one of the president-elect's strongest supporters in Congress. He has critics in his own party, including a feud with Kevin McCarthy. Hill has reached out for a spokesperson for both Trump and Gaetz for comment. So it seems like he's just kissing his ass, which is kind of weird, because especially with all the other stuff that's going on with Matt Gaetz, maybe Moskowitz is thinking, I'll play nice, and then he'll say, and he'll let the Republicans do the attacking for him, because you have several Republicans who are already very outspoken against Matt Gaetz and his appointment as Attorney General. But it's still kind of, I would have found a better way to put it there. I would have said at least, while Matt Gaetz was very integral of getting me confirmed, and he was part of the transition team for Ron DeSantis to become the emergency management director in Florida, I would have then continued to say, I still don't think he's a good choice for AG. But yes, elections do have consequences, as conservatives love to tell us, and they love to quote Obama. They love Obama sayings when it benefits them, but not when it doesn't benefit them. But here's the thing. You're saying that as a Democrat, but yet you're not saying the bad part about Gaetz, and that's worrisome for me. So we may have to keep an eye on Moskowitz and see what the hell's going on with him, and why, and if he continues to be this, how should I say it, non-committal against Matt Gaetz, especially with Matt Gaetz and the allegations against him. But before we get to Matt Gaetz, let's see. Moskowitz is trolling him. Do you think it's just trolling? Do you think it's just that? Dude, Josh, you have a woman's rights rant in a second. I think this might be Khalil. But you can call in, Josh, and I'll get to Khalil. I'll get to Khalil first. We'll get to Khalil after and then we'll talk to Khalil. I think this is Khalil. Is this Khalil?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Yeah, this is Khalil. I was right.
Good.
We'll get to Khalil, and if Josh wants to call in, you can call in, Josh, afterwards, and then we'll be talking about both Pete Hegseth and Matt Gaetz. But first, welcome back, Khalil. Thank you for calling. So, what's going on?
I'm doing okay. What you said was true about the abortion thing, but the whole problem is when we make the same argument, they'll say one has nothing to do with the other. If we were turn it around, like let's say people are hypocrites. They'll say people are hypocrites for wanting abortion bans but not gun control. You know, Steven Crowder's tried to say it was supposed hypocrisy, and I told him that's annoying when you guys only see it when it's our side, but you don't see it when it's your side.
Very true. And, it's, and a lot of people say, how can you be pro-life but not? And I'll do this. I'll be like, how can you claim to be pro-life when you allow these women to die in Texas? How can you claim to be pro-life when you don't care about the lives of the children when it comes to school shootings? So, yeah, I do it too sometimes. But the label with pro-life, I mean, it's more anti-choice than pro-life, but they've manipulated the use of being pro-life to specifically try and talk about the embryo and the babies, but they don't care about the babies when they grow up or even when they're born.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And one of the things I want them to do is practice what you preach is be to the gun people who oppose gun control that are not consistent or don't want to see the inconsistency. I wanted to do that, but yeah, basically that's how I feel. It's the same thing when I get so angry when people who don't mean well say you're exploiting the victims of mass shootings.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, unless it depends on who they're talking about and who they are. If they're willing to do the same thing and lie about it, or if they're willing to say it about someone that actually cares, then that's when I get mad. I don't get mad if someone means well and they say it, but if you're one of these people that, because I'm going to give you an example, the NRA is the wrong type of people to say it, because not only they only use Fast and Furious to prove a point, but there was a chief that was actually upset about one of his officers dying, and they had the nerve to accuse him of exploiting his officers. And
right.
I told him off for that. Not only for the fact that they are hypocrites, but for the fact that they accuse someone of not caring, just to make themselves look good. And just because you try to say you're exploiting someone, it doesn't make you look good all the time. Sometimes it makes you look like a bigger asshole when you say that. So when the NRA said that, it made them look like assholes.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, so anything else you wanted to chime in with before we move on to the next subject?
Also, do you know about people? You ever ridden in the cab?
Yeah, I've ridden in a taxi. What's up?
The people who drive taxis, are they usually like dressed professionally, like collar shirts and slacks and khakis, or do they wear sneakers usually?
Typically, I mean, I know when I used to drive Uber and Lyft, I mean, which is not exactly a taxi, but I wouldn't go all, crummy. I wouldn't wear my Crocs and a cruddy shirt, but I'd probably wear sneakers, and depending if it was hot, I'd wear shorts and maybe a collared shirt or whatever, but nothing like, no suit and tie, no jacket and tie or anything like that. And usually most cabbies I've ridden in, especially even before that, wouldn't wear fancier clothes. So
all right, well, thank you.
All right, no problem. Yeah. All right, well, thank you, Khalil, so much for calling in. Appreciate you. And Josh, if you're listening, you could have called in already, but you can call him whenever. And while we're waiting for that, we'll get to the next subject. Thank you, Khalil, so much for calling in. You have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
All right, and of course, what Khalil brought up another point about, when they say it's too soon to talk about it, you're taking advantage of the children. You're taking advantage of the kids that just died, and they're always like, well, too soon. I was like, all right, well, tell me when we can talk about it. Tell me when we can have this discussion. Put it on the calendar. If now is too soon to talk about gun control, put a date on the calendar where you say it's gonna be fine for us to talk about gun control and school shootings with a certain amount of time past the last school shooting, because it's always too soon to talk about it, but then they never want to talk about it. Again, hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. So, it is what it is. Oh, wait, that's Trump's line. I'm sorry.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Let's see, Darcy. I see it as well, the nonsense that anything Amaga says he and his family did, in fact, has bad situation, lives threatened. Mad Max, check Jesse Dalamar once stands over because he has the whole thing that Jaron said at a Capitol building. All right. We'll definitely check it out and see. I mean, I was quoting the Hill, and the Hill was I guess he was saying something. I don't know if it was to the Hill or if it was the Hill was just reporting on that. Maybe the Hill's not reporting the whole story. But yeah. So let's talk first about good old Pete Hegseth, because here's the deal with RFK Jr. and the allegations against him. We now have to worry about the fact how HHS will deal with consent. Will HHS make it a point to give information about the importance of consent when it comes to sexual relations, sexual acts, or whatever? Or will HHS take a step back because, his allegations, the allegations against Trump and other people within his administration, are they going to worry, or is consent going to take the back seat because these people are privileged, and as Donald Trump says, they feel that they should be able to walk up on somebody and grab them by the hoo-ha and, do whatever it is they want because they're rich and powerful. That's what the rich and powerful have done for years. And not only did Donald Trump say that in his Access Hollywood interview on the recording, but he also said that in his deposition under oath when he was asked whether or not, he was asked whether or not he believes that, and he could have just said, look, this was just locker room talk. I really didn't mean it. I wasn't really serious about that. But no, he doubled down on it, and he said, yep, I agree. I believe that. I agree with that. And I'm one of those people who is allowed to do that as well. So, Pete Hedgehog. We're going to call him Sonic, or maybe, I don't know if Sonic will be the right one. So, 3:15 here after this segment. Oh, okay. You can call it whatever, but again, it doesn't matter. So Pete Hegseth, what is he accused of? In 2017, Hegseth was named in an investigation by the Monterey Police Department concerning a reported sexual assault at a golf resort in California. According to a statement from the officials, Hegseth acknowledges having had sexual intercourse with the woman, but insisted that it was consensual. The incident occurred in the early hours of October 8th at 1 Old Golf Course Road, which is the address of the Hyatt Regency Monterey Hotel and Spa. Police say the woman reported an injury to her right thigh. Their news release does not disclose the alleged victim's name or age. However, she was 30 at the time and worked for the California Federation of Republican Women, assisting with logistics while Hegseth spoke at their conference. She was staying at the hotel with her husband. Hegseth's relationship status at the time was complicated. In 2017, his second wife filed for divorce. Around the same time, he and his current wife had a baby. In his statement to the Post, Parlatore says that Hegseth has been drinking at the hotel bar, was intoxicated when he went to his hotel room with the woman. According to the Post, the memo from the woman's friend said that the woman took Hegseth to the room after being informed that he was being a nuisance to other women. A few days later, she contacted the police to report a sexual assault. After the woman hired an attorney a couple years later to consider a lawsuit, both parties reached an agreement. Parlatore noted in his statement to the Post that the Me Too movement was, quote, gaining momentum, and he told CBS News that Hegseth would have faced an immediate horror storm had he been publicly accused of sexual assault, a quote that Parlatore confirmed to NPR. The incident occurred about a year after Fox News settled with former Fox and Friends host Gretchen Carlson for $20 million over sexual harassment claims. Roger Ailes, between 2017 and 2020, the network have experienced high-profile departures linked to misconduct, including Bill O'Reilly, Eric Bolling, Washington correspondent James Rosen, and news host Ed Henry. Again, he's known for his TV work. He's loyal to Trump. But here's the thing. The military has a problem with sexual assault. Period. There is a problem with the military and sexual assault. They have been trying to reduce alarming rates of sexual assaults from military academies to overseas deployments. In a notable shift, the Defense Department implemented a change earlier this year that grants independent military lawyers the authority to handle sexual assault cases, removing the matters from the chains of command of either the accused or the victim, which I don't know who thought putting it in the chain of command would be a good idea, because if the chain of command upkeeps and upholds military patriarchal traditions, then it's not going to be a place that anybody is going to go to get justice when it comes to sexual assault. The change to the military justice system was backed by the current Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin. But now, what will we have to worry about, or what will we have to deal with Pete Hegseth? This is somebody who doesn't believe that women should be in combat roles, probably not even deployed. Would that be his solution? Is just we're going to solve the problem of sexual assault and rape in the military by being sexist against women and not allowing women to serve in combat roles. Ignoring the fact that there are women who have served with dignity and valor. Tammy Duckworth, for example, lost both of her legs in service to her country. That she lost her legs had nothing to do with her gender. It just had to do with the fact that it was an unfortunate thing that happened to her as part of her service. But clearly she is a capable person and was a capable person and served with honor and dignity. And Pete Hegseth would take that away from her. But Pete Hegseth, to me, I would be concerned about the fact that even if he's not able to make changes to department policy that would enable the military to not deploy women, even if he is able to do that, or let's say he's not able to do that, and then there are women who are going to be deployed, do we believe that Pete Hegseth would be somebody who could, potentially be trusted to handle these issues? Will the military go back to the previous policies where it puts it back in the chain of command? That's one thing I'm worried about with Pete Hegseth, with these allegations that came up against him, that he would want to remove the current system that was changed in order to help victims, and instead go back to the old system that protected the assailants and did not allow the victims to get any justice whatsoever. That is what I fear. One of the things that I fear from a Pete Hegseth Department of Defense. So there's that. Let's see. Ranger Gooseman over on Twitch. Once they get rid of everyone they deem not acceptable in the military, they will have to start the draft up again. Pretty much. And then, they'll probably find some way to make it so that the people who get drafted are people who are, undesirable to them. And then they'll do other things. For example, it came up in my memories the other day, a few days ago, that there was of people who were veterans who served their country, who served this country, who were not citizens, were deported from the country under Trump. So when that draft comes, they're going to throw, they'll be more than happy to throw, young guys who are being drafted because, they're going to get rid of the people they don't like. And then what are they going to do? Then they're going to deport them afterwards if they're not citizens. I mean, that should be a direct route to citizenship. If you want to come to this country and have a fast track to citizenship, it should be via the military. One of the ways, at least, or at least through service. Like, to me, that's one of the things that perhaps they should do if you're drafting. Which is not, it shouldn't just be military service, it should just be service in general. If you're going to have a draft and you're going to be drafting people, if you're not capable of doing military type work, you should be able to be capable to do other type of service work, for example. Anyway, he seems like an arrogant prick too. Oh, of course he's an arrogant prick. He's a Fox News host. Weekend anchor. Doesn't support, it's. I just got distracted because I saw the phone coming in. Let's go ahead and bring Josh on the air. I'm assuming this is Josh. Is this Josh?
Hello.
Hello. How are you? Is it
Hello?
Josh? Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's Josh here.
Good. Welcome to the show. I can hear you perfectly. Thanks for calling in.
All right. Oh, geez, working backwards from what you were just talking about. The whole military thing. I know a handful of people that have been in the military, and I personally haven't. And sometimes I feel guilty I haven't done service in one way or another. But I try and be a good person for the community around me. But anyway, I can't believe that some people don't understand what's going to happen to the VA and whatnot. And that's not why I'm calling in. But
okay.
I wanted to rant about a friend of mine.
Okay.
I've never. I don't want to defriend people, right?
Right.
And it's very difficult sometimes.
It's hard.
I spent 3.5 hours last night on women's rights, and this mother. Okay, yeah. I'm not going to swear, but He insists that if a woman gets pregnant, and I'm like, oh, he's like, okay, well, if it's rape or incest, right? You know, he'll concede this point, that other point. And I'm like, well, what if they're in an abusive relationship? Well, but no, then if they did the deed, they have to, you know, like, what the hell is wrong with you, man? Like, I can't comprehend. When 3.5 hours with different scenarios, and I'm like, he's like, well, you know, the woman should have to carry the baby, and then, okay, they can adopt, you know, put it out for adoption. Like, people want to, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, what about when, you know, it happens in a tent city? You want, like, who wants to adopt, I hate to say, but a meth head baby or some shit like that.
Right.
But and he concedes on that, but in the end, he still thinks that, like, I'm like, so you think the woman should be punished? And then all of a sudden, you know, it pivots to something else. I'm like,
right.
Come on. Well,
well, that's what Trump said.
Let's get real about this here, man.
Trump...
Like he has no fucking clue about what like reality is.
Trump did say that the woman there should be some punishment for the woman. So if he's a Trump supporter, he's backing what Donald Trump has publicly stated, that there should be some punishment for the woman when it comes to abortion, which of course is abhorrent. It's wrong. I absolutely disagree with, but that's what he says.
Abhorrent is the right word. Disgusting. I mean, I don't understand how people can, like, you have a mother, you have a sister, you have a niece. Like, what the?
Right. Well,
like all of a sudden there's like just like a disconnect, like a short circuit in the brain or something.
Well, every time somebody I know starts talking about, well, of course I think there should be exceptions for rape and incest or whatever. I'm like, but these laws don't include them. Most of these new laws that are being introduced and that have been passed in states like Louisiana and in Texas do not make an exception for rape or incest. There is none. There has to be, like, the woman has to be, like, on death's door in order for you to take action, or the person who's pregnant, just in case the person's non-binary or whatever, has to be on death's door in order for them to take action, in order for the state to not step in and stop action.
And then it's too late. Late.
Yep.
I went through some issues, like, with my wife and whatnot. We have a kid who's going where, we got a whole stack of college applications that are going out on Monday.
Uh-huh. Yep.
But we had some issues. There was a possibility for a second child, and I can't imagine. And I didn't know.
Can you hear me? Hello. Let's see. We look like we're paused on one on Twitch. I don't know if it's there. Yeah, a bit of buffering, but I'm not hearing our caller anymore. So if you can hear me, call back, because for some reason I lost you. All right, Big Hook says you can still hear me. I don't know why it is. Like there, call dropped. Let's see if we can actually play that thing. No, we cannot. Interesting. So Blog Talk Radio crapped the bed too. Lovely. Let's see, direct connect. I have to direct connect. Since you're calling into a live broadcast, we're continuing with the show now. Yeah, because my internet, I guess it was a short enough hiccup.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio.
Yes, thank you. Come on, let's hit the one. Come on. Oh, I just missed it. Continue. Come on. Continue. Direct connect. Let's see if this goes again. Little
Welcome
clippy
to
calls.
Blog Talk
Yeah, no, the
Radio.
call went away, unfortunately. Hey, Ervil, it'd be good to see you over there in Twitch land. Let's see. In 2022, there were 8...
To start your show now, press 1.
Okay.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
Well, thank you. Good day. Hello, Governor. We are back. Everything's back. Yay. Anyway, since in 2022, we're up to 108,000 kids to be adopted, but sure, let's add more to the problem. Exactly what happens when they do a nationwide abortion ban. See, that's one thing. When they do a nationwide abortion ban, because I fully expect it coming. I fully expect it coming. You're going to have the nationwide, they're going to try and pass a nationwide abortion ban. California and other states who support abortion rights are going to sue in order to prevent the nationwide abortion ban from taking place. The lower courts will cite Dobbs v. Jackson, saying that the federal government has no authority to regulate abortion. Therefore, thank you for the follow. Appreciate you. Black Dragon, I guess, is that it? Yes, Black Dragon, thank you for the follow. Over on Twitch. Now, the, what's the thing I was saying? Okay. That was very distracting. Lost my train of thought. But, anyway, when the abortion ban, if the nationwide abortion ban comes in, and you have these blue states come in and say, hey, you know, this is against the law. This is the Dobbs v. Jackson said that there's no federal authority when it comes to abortion. It belongs to the states. So therefore, you have to overturn this nationwide abortion ban as well, because it can't be the law of the land either. And then when Justice Alito, or whoever it is that writes the opinion, comes out and says, you can do abortion bans, but you can't protect abortion rights, that's going to probably make Alito hypocrite of the decade, if not hypocrite of the century. I mean, he'll have that on lock if that happens. So, Ranger Goose, man, in my opinion, but it's insane to have kids right now, unfortunately. I mean, people... Hey, Nick, thank you for the first time chat over on Twitch as well. It is kind of ridiculous and crazy with everything that's going on. It would very... I mean, how could one sit here and try and plan a pregnancy to go into effect next year when you don't even know what things are going to cost next year? You have no way of knowing what things are going to cost because of Trump's, I think AutoZone just recently came, and not that AutoZone has anything to do with kids. I mean, if you need to get kids back and forth to places, you do have to have a working car typically. But AutoZone said that AutoZone would be one of many corporations who've already come out and said, hey, if Trump puts his tariffs into place, those costs are being passed on to consumers, which is going to immediately cause prices to go sky high. And here's one thing that I saw, one of the conservative pundits was at one of the college campuses, and they were talking about tariffs, and he was defending tariffs as... he was defending Trump's tariffs because one of the students was like, hey, this is going to cause costs to go up. And then the pundit was like, well, what do you think what's going to happen then once the tariffs are put in place? The people are going to move their operations into the United States and do business here and create the items here so they won't be subject to a tariff. That's very naive. That is a very naive way of thinking. Because who's to say that they can afford it? Who's to say that that's cost effective to them? If you have to pick up your operations, come to the United States, hire people in the United States, operate under the United States laws, I mean, yeah, I do believe that it's unfair to domestic production that has to compete against, you know, external production that's done much more cheaply. That's tough. But how far do you go with it at the risk of harming the American consumers? Right? But the idea that you're going to sit here and you're going to say, oh, well, if the corporations don't want to pay the tariffs, then they could just do business here. It's completely naive. They might just say it's not worth it to move the business here because the amount of cost that will incur by moving the business over here is going to cause us to have to increase prices to y'all anyway. So if we have to increase prices to y'all anyway, then why won't we just do it here, raise the prices to meet the cost of the tariffs, and there you go. So again, but conservative naivete when it comes to politics, when it comes to fiscal issues, is just mind-numbingly stupid. But then again, Donald Trump did say that he loved the poorly educated, and as such, the poorly educated seem to want to prove to him day in and day out that they're still worthy of that love. Even though now Donald Trump doesn't have any use for him because they put him back in power, which is the most poorly educated thing that anybody could do. Anyway. Let's see. Did Josh come back? You didn't suck, Josh. It was just the fact that the call, I had an internet glitch, which I had at the same time last week, roughly, and everything glitched, so that I lost connectivity to Blog Talk Radio, which meant I couldn't hear you, which meant you weren't going live over the stream. So, Brandon Woods, that was me. What was you? Brandon Woods? I don't know. What were you saying was you? Twitch is different than YouTube. I'm not used to it. Blue Sky is different too. Yeah, Blue Sky is a little bit differently. Oh, we got Josh back. Hello there.
Hey, Dan. Yeah, sorry. I a couple of beers in, and I stutter and whatnot. But
no problem. No. Have you called back? It's technical. For some reason, I don't know why the internet's deciding to be now. We're supposed to have better internet with fiber. I might have to call and say, hey, my signal keeps dropping right around 850 every day. So, okay, Brandon, you're Black Dragon. Okay, cool. Anyway, back to Josh.
My issue that I keep finding with people is I'll talk to them, and if you go issue by issue, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with that. Eventually you find just one little thorny sticking point, which does not add up with all the other things that they agree with. But for some reason, that one little sticking point is going to be, they're stuck there. So they're like, it negates everything else that you just added up when it comes to how, whether it's women's rights, like healthcare rights that way, or if it's economically, like you were just talking, like, okay, tariffs are bad. This is how they work, right? Yeah, but then corporations are bad. Yeah, but, and then, okay, yeah, well, let's talk about that a little bit. Well, let's examine that deeper. And you get to a sticking point where they think, oh, all of a sudden, but that somehow that's going to cost me something, or I'm going to lose out on something. And it's absolutely bizarre because it's different for every person that I talk to. That isn't just, a liberal, to be honest with you.
No, but yeah, I mean, that's the case. Like, you sit here and, like, with lots of issues, you'll say, if you list all of the things that the Affordable Care Act did, and you list them line by line, most of them have wide approval. Everybody loves what the Affordable Care Act did. But when you say, what do you feel about Obamacare? Oh, I hate it.
Right.
But all those things you just listed are things that are part of the Affordable Care Act, i.e. Obamacare. So if you like those things, why don't you like Obamacare? And usually it comes down to the mandate, but that most people I've found, even on our side of the aisle, don't have enough information or aren't informed enough to have the discussion as to why when you get rid of pre-existing condition clauses, you need to have a mandate or else you have anti-selection. To most people, that comment just went right over their head, unless they listen frequently to Liberal Dan Radio talk from left to right, that's right, and they'll understand what that means, because I've gone over that many times. But a lot of people just don't understand that comment and don't understand what it means. If you don't understand what that means, you're not informed enough to have a discussion about why mandates are important or why they're essential as part of the plan. So, and that's often what I'll tell them, and usually that just gets people to shut up, especially conservatives.
Well, I don't think getting someone to shut up it helps anything, right?
So usually it doesn't, but if they're willing, if usually it's the point. Usually when I get that like snarky, it's already because I know that the person isn't going to listen. Like if I honestly know that somebody is willing to listen and have a discussion and wants to learn more, and their mind is open to the idea that they could be wrong and that they were willing to have their mind changed, sure, I will take the time and have the conversation and explain to them exactly what those things mean and why, at the end of the day, the Affordable Care Act would be broken without the mandate. That being said, you know, when people are being snarky and ridiculous and do show no willingness to either admit that they were wrong or admit that they didn't know something, and yeah, why bother? At that point, why bother?
I often do I don't know the exact statistics, the exact facts on this. Let's find out together. Okay, here's
Right.
3-4 sources, that we can both reference together. Let's learn together.
Yeah.
And then somehow, all of a sudden you run up into a wall where they're stuck on one thing, and everything else just gets. You talk to the same person 2 days later, and they've forgotten all that.
Yep. But again, one of the problems with Trump supporters is one of the problems with Trump supporters is simply the fact that a lot of them are unwilling to ever admit that they were wrong. Like they will double down on 12 constantly, just to try and prove that they were right. And then if they bust, then they're like, oh, it's not my fault for some reason. So.
Right. I don't know. I don't have an explanation for it, but it just.
The simple explanation is it's a cult.
Because I feel like after the Trump win, some people, even though they may have not voted for Trump, feel emboldened now to be, it's the whole bro culture thing. Oh my God, it sickens me.
The bro culture. You've got Nazis marching now in Ohio. You've got outside of the Nazi protests, that was outside of an Anne Frank showing of when people were performing the Diary of Anne Frank. Nazis were protesting outside there. Nazis were not marching down the street somewhere else. These people are emboldened by Orange Foolius. They love. They believe that MAGA von Schissespants is the next incarnation of Hitler, and that he's going to be their savior and bring forth their ability to have their white supremacy that they so desire, which is unfortunate, but that's what we get. The elections had consequences, as they say. I'm not going to justify any of the actions, but we're now going to be learning and dealing with all of the consequences of those actions, and I think we're going to have an issue. I talked about this last week, but we're going to be looking at this podcast about all the people who were surprised that the leopards ate their face, which there's a
exactly.
Yeah. I didn't expect the leopards to eat my face. I didn't think that would happen when I jumped into the whole pit of leopards. I never thought that they would do that. Silly me. And you're going to have a lot of people finding out. You have people currently who I want to say it was on Blue Sky. One of the people I follow on Blue Sky basically posted it was a bunch of people who are Muslim, who support Palestinian rights, are now complaining about who Trump is appointing to his cabinet and how they're against Palestine. How what's his face? Mike Huckabee doesn't believe in Palestinians, like it doesn't believe it should be a thing. He believes in Israel controlling all of the West Bank, all of Gaza, all of everything. No two-state solution. And now they're like, well, why would he do that? Because you voted for an idiot and you were an idiot for voting for him. It was idiotception. Idiocy on top of idiocy. So.
Well, what blows my mind is how people, when you break it down issue by issue, they are not MAGA, but then at the end of it, somehow they are. Like when you parse it out, when you explain it, one thing at a time. But the broader picture never develops.
Right.
It baffles me and it frustrates me, and sometimes I wonder why I still talk to some people.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few people that I know that there's maybe one person that I know who voted for Trump who I'm choosing to not remove from my life simply because of the fact that I know that generally speaking she would have my back regardless of whatever. But other than that, I have little to no patience right now with people who have no problem with voting this into power again. It's just ridiculous. So anyway, got anything else to
no, I'm done. I'm sorry to bother your time.
No, you're not. It's not a bother. One of the things I like about this format, this show, is I love being able to get phone calls. Love being able to interact with the listeners above and beyond text, because sometimes it's hard to follow the text, or sometimes the text in the chat is talking about something that's unrelated, which is fine. Let every comment in the chat, every comment that they have about chat about Westworld or Western World or whatever it is, Westworld, every comment in there helps the algorithm anyway. So talk about all that you want in the chat. It's fine by me. But anyway, thank you, Josh, for calling in. You're more than welcome to call in again. Appreciate you, and you have a good rest of your night.
Yeah. Take care, Dan.
I appreciate you. Bye-bye. All right. That was Josh. Loki Era on Twitch. Shit's dark tonight. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a dark subject because, are we going to have to worry about consent and people having consent respected? I mean, ignoring the fact that you had, the idiots like Nick Fuentes saying things like, your body, my choice. So people are now feel emboldened to be able to push themselves in. Of course, he had to run and flee back to his mommy's house because of that, because people were scared because he was scared because people doxed him. And, he's in the find out stage in F around and find out. So good for him. But more people are going to come out and say that. You had people, I guess, in chat talking about it. It happened to their daughters in school. You have other people, I think, on Facebook. I saw people where their friends have heard it because the bro culture or whatever hears this kind of stuff and is like, yeah, that's right. Your body, my choice. That sounds awesome. And, not even realize the fact that they are literally being sexual terrorists at that point. By pushing that idea along, you're being sexual terrorists. But again, when you have somebody who is accused of rape in charge of the Department of Health, when you have somebody who's in charge of rape or who has been charged with or who was accused of rape in charge of the military, you have somebody who's been accused of rape who's going to be the Attorney General. I mean, there are rumblings that he won't be because he won't be able to get confirmed, but still, we're going to have to see. Again, one of the things we have to see before we get into the Matt Gaetz topic is simply, will the Senate show spine? They got a non-MAGA-ish person to be a Senate Majority Leader. Will the Senate have a spine? Will the Senate uphold the traditions of the Senate to say, we get to determine when we're in recess and when we're not in recess, and therefore we're not just going to let you appoint people all willy-nilly. If the Senate says we're not in recess, you can't make recess appointments because we're not in recess, regardless of how long they're there or not there, and if the Senate forces Trump to go through the nomination and confirmation process, then there's a little bit of hope. But if the Senate acquiesces to Trump and decides that it's going to renege on its responsibilities of advice and consent and choose to go into recess to allow Donald Trump to have a recess appointment to avoid all of the things that may come, you're going to have to deal with AG Matt Gaetz for at least 2 years. You're going to have to deal with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. You're going to have to deal with RFK Jr. You have to deal with all of his appointments because they're all going to come due. And if the Senate goes, okay, we're going to be in recess starting at noon on January 20th, 2025. If they do that, then I'm saying we're done. That is their first step in enabling him to be dictator on day one. If they acquiesce and they just give tacit approval for his picks by choosing to not be in session, we're done, because that's basically just allowing Donald Trump to be the dictator that he wants to be. Clearly. Look, yeah, there are people with signs saying women are property, try us. Yeah. Lorena Bobbitt's going to become the patron saint of the Me Too movement, because it's going to be like, all right, y'all want to play? Let's play. Right? Ranger Gooseman is just insane as a Gen Xer that grew up in the 70s how we got here. No idea how, again, as a Gen Xer myself, how do we get here? Lack of education, a willful ignorance, etc. Anyway, so the final individual who we're talking about today, as we've talked about already, is Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz. Let's scroll back up to the top of this one, or this article, I want to say. Attorney says his clients testified that Gaetz paid for sex. The attorney, Joel Leopard, represented the 2 women who testified before the House Ethics Committee. So this is the report that has been around. Sorry, I got a little bit of heartburn because of my new medicine. The attorney, Joel Leopard, represents 2 women who testified before the House Ethics Panel. And again, they have a report with all this stuff in the report that Speaker Johnson is trying very hard to not release. And there needs to be some hero out there that goes and slips it to the public. Because what Speaker Johnson is doing right then and there is just enabling a rapist. If there's nothing to hide, then show it. Sunlight's the best disinfectant. Matt Gaetz comes from the Sunshine State, where supposedly they have good sunshine laws there, but not in the federal government. Mike Johnson's going to keep this as tight under wraps as can possibly be, even though he's no longer, specifically because he's no longer in Congress. That's the excuse that he's using. But the attorney representing 2 women connected to the sexual misconduct probe into AG hopeful Matt Gaetz is revealing new allegations, including that his clients testified before the Florida lawmaker paid women for sex. The attorney, Joel Leopard, told ABC News that one of the women testified that she saw Gaetz having sex with a friend who was under 18 at the time, i.e. raping her friend, because not within the age of consent. If you can't consent to sex, if you're not able to consent to sex, guess what? It's rape. She testified in July of 2017 at this house party. She was walking out to the pool area. She looked to her right. She saw Rep. Gaetz having sex with a friend who was 17. Leopard also told ABC that his clients both testified that they were paid to have sex with the congressman using Venmo. And apparently, in the hearing, they were showing the Venmo payments that were made by his account. And according to Ranger Gooseman, over on Twitch, Apparently, Gaetz had a second Venmo through his adopted son that he used for sexual encounters, i.e. he's using Nestor's account. Poor Nestor. Really feel sorry for Nestor. The whole Nestor thing was weird, though. Can we admit that the whole Nestor thing was weird, that it just randomly came around? I think I have a Nestor clip. Did I get rid of my Nestor clip, or... Let's say. Yeah, because remember when he said what he said? I'll play it just in case you don't remember.
As you guys can see, I've got my helper Nestor here. I'm at my parents' house out in Walton County.
Yeah, he has his helper. So he was going to say son, but he didn't say son. He said a helper.
As you guys can see, I've got my helper Nestor here. I'm at my parents' house out in Walton County.
So his helper. Why didn't he just say son if it was his adopted son? It's a very weird situation. Very, very weird situation. But back to the issue at hand. Again, look, if these women were above the age of consent and they were willing to participate in sexual activities for pay, sex work is work, in my opinion. If you are consenting to it, I mean, there's no difference between paying for sex with a prostitute and then using your money to buy yourself a foreign bride. There should be no difference between the two, right? Consent is consent is consent. And I would absolutely call Matt Gaetz out for his hypocrisy, for being all high and mighty and moral and then buying hookers. But I'm not going to begrudge people for doing sex work. That being said, if you're underage, it's not sex work. It's rape. It's sex trafficking, to boot. Let's see. The House was very clear about that, went through each. They essentially put the Venmo payments on the screen and asked about them. My clients repeatedly testified, what was this payment for? That was for sex. In another interview with CBS, Leppert said that in addition to the Venmo and PayPal transactions, there are also text messages where the former congressman refers to illegal drugs using the code party favors. His clients, he added, attended between 10 and 15 parties with Gaetz and were also compensating for traveling to the Bahamas with him. Gaetz has previously denied all of the allegations, but did not immediately respond to requests for comment made through President-elect Donald Trump's transition team. The two women reportedly testified in both the Justice Department and the House Ethics Panel investigations. The House Ethics Panel will meet Wednesday and potentially vote to release its report probing sexual misconduct allegations against Gaetz. The meeting comes as Gaetz' confirmation is in question, with some Republican senator wary of the controversial Florida Republican serving as the nation's top law enforcement officer. But again, what's the issue here above and beyond Matt Gaetz' horrible conduct and these allegations that he may very well have raped somebody and participated in child sex trafficking? What's the issue here? Because let me tell you, I don't believe for 1 second that Gaetz didn't realize that this person was underage. That was probably a feature, not a bug to him. Right? Yes? So I don't believe that at all. I don't believe 1 second that he didn't know. Now, I think one of them actually did testify to the idea that he didn't know, that he might have thought that she was of age. But, Your Honor, I thought she was legal, never really flies in a court of in the courts, do they? Your Honor, I thought she was legal. No, that doesn't work at all. Not one bit. Let's see. Whether or not to release the report, which some senators said would be essential in deciding whether to confirm Gaetz, is placing intense pressure on the historically bipartisan Ethics Committee. Republican Senator Mark Wayne Mullen told Sunday told Meet the Press the Senate should absolutely be able to see the report, but he said that doesn't necessarily mean it should become public. Look, if the Senate gets to see the report, that's one thing, that's good, but it absolutely should be public. We should be able to make a public records request and say, hey, we want this report, and we want this report released now. Murkowski says she doesn't think that Gaetz is a serious nomination. Susan Collins, says she was shocked by the choice. But two of those, or is it three now? Markwayne Mullins is also a senator, so there's three senators who seem to not want to support him. But it doesn't matter if you have 50 plus the vice president. That's enough to confirm. So you need one more Republican out there who's going to be willing to say, you know what, Gaetz is a step too far. But again, if the Senate, does not, acquiesces and does not, keep its responsibility for advising and consenting the president, and uses the loophole created by the Supreme Court to say that the Senate is in total control as to when it's in recess, if they acquiesce to Donald Trump and basically say, hey, you're going to get to make your recess appointments, we're stuck with Matt Gaetz as Attorney General for 2 years. And then what? What happens to any allegations made of sexual assault against anybody in the administration? It's all going to get shoved under the rug. They're not going to do anything about it. If the federal government has jurisdiction over the case, they're not going to do anything about it. Not one bit. And then Donald Trump could even be like, look, you don't investigate this person. This person is my friend. Don't investigate him. And if he tells Gaetz that, as Attorney General, that is a conversation within the executive branch. And because this activist Supreme Court said, hey, things that are said between the members of the executive branch are privileged and therefore can't be subpoenaed, it doesn't matter what they say. Donald Trump could basically tell Matt Gaetz, bring me some girls in so I can have fun with them, and it be part of sex trafficking, and we couldn't find out about it. Why? Because it's privileged information, even though it has nothing to do with his job as president, because this activist Supreme Court created a monster. They enabled the tools for Donald Trump to become an even bigger monster than he was before. This is 1930s Germany. This is how this happened. The only difference is that Donald Trump hasn't sat in prison yet. Let's see. I think it's a job requirement. I am on Blue Sky. Just search Liberal Dan Radio, all one word, on Blue Sky, and that'll work. I think the link might not be working because it might be pulling in that @ But if you just look for Liberal Dan Radio, all one word, you'll find me on Blue Sky. So, not buying hookers. I mean, I'll use the more terse language, I guess, simply because of the fact that, that's the way that they would look at it. See, Trump is finally going to be right once in his life. We will be a shithole country. He's going to make us what, again, every Republican accusation is a confession, even if it's a pre-confession. Nick Rich, will Kamala certify the Electoral College count? Pence did. That's something that I brought up previously. I actually brought up on Hal's show, too. When I called in the Hal's show, I brought it up, the idea that, it was the Supreme Court that said that only Congress can determine whether or not Electoral College votes are valid or not. Only Congress has that authority to do so. They said, look, if you're a state, you can't say that this slate of candidates who are electors can't be put on the ballot because they're electors for somebody who you believe participated in a rebellion and insurrection against the state. They said the states can't do it. They basically gave the power to Congress to say, this is your responsibility, and for you to take action on January 6th. Will there be people who up there on January 6th decide to say, we're going to challenge these votes because Donald Trump is not eligible to be president because he partook in a insurrection against against this country? Even if we wanted them to, I don't think they will. Because unfortunately, the one things that the Democrats lack in many times is a spine. Now, Harris doesn't have the authority to do anything about it. Harris is just in charge of the proceedings. But the Congress people themselves could challenge it, but the new rules pretending to challenge it say, I think you now need 20% of each house to be able to say, hey, these is an issue, and then force them to go into recess, or I don't know if it's recess, but force them to go into split conferences to be able to have the conversation as to whether or not they're going to accept these or not. And they don't have the votes, because ultimately if they're gonna do that, they don't have the votes, and it'll all be for naught. So that's probably why they wouldn't do it. But even if they believe that they should do it, they probably wouldn't do it, because too many Democrats lack the appropriate spine to stand up and fight to conservatism. And that's why we have the situation that we're in. And I'm not just talking about the elected officials here either. I'm talking about the people who refuse to stand up to Trump because of whatever reason, because of your own, whatever you think is going to happen in your wallet. That's not going to happen in your wallet, because Donald Trump sucks on the economy. But, I don't expect them to do anything. I expect them to twiddle their thumbs and acquiesce and say, yes, Donald Trump, you're the next president of the United States, yada, yada, yada. We're not going to do anything about that, because they're going to be like, we don't want to cause the same problems we had 4 years ago. Well, no Democrat is going to be at the Capitol doing that like they were, like the Republicans and conservatives who support Trump were doing 4 years ago. We're not going to sit there and storm the Capitol over it. But you can still make the legal challenge that the Supreme Court gave you the authority to make the legal challenge over, because that's Supreme Court ruling. Now, granted, it's silly, because states are supposed to have the ability to control their own elections, and so the state should be able to determine who's on which ballot, right? But if they're not going to do that, then if they're not going to allow the states to do that, then it's up to the Congress. But I don't believe that this Congress would do that. And then, Biden is always trying to be the statesman. Biden will always be the statesman. So when it comes to like when he was on the campaign trail, he had no problem telling Donald Trump to shut the hell up, man. He had no problem saying that. When it comes to being president, Biden is not going to do anything that's going to tarnish his legacy. He's going to be the professional politician, which means playing nicey nice to the next dictator of the United States. Which, a lot of us wish he wouldn't, but there are certain things that have to be done. Of course, there are certain things that have to be done that Donald Trump hasn't done, like, sign the ethics pledge that would enable him to get the information, dealing with security and stuff like that, so he can be prepared on day one. But he doesn't care about being prepared, because he does any preparations that the Biden administration would have for him, he'd just be like, throw it over his shoulder. I don't care about this. We're doing it my way. So Obama got Biden because he understood international diplomacy. Exactly. But even that, but one of the reasons that Biden should have known that the Republicans were never going to play ball with him is simply the fact that when he was vice president for President Obama, these Republicans from day one were even before day one, before they swore Obama into the presidency, they were meeting to have discussions as to how they were going to stop Obama from doing whatever it is that he wanted to do as president. That got stopped because for a brief moment in time, give him one moment in time. Sorry. We got 60 votes in the Senate to enable us to pass things like the Affordable Care Act and the Matthew Shepard hate crimes bill. But other than that, but then, of course, we lost the 60th seat because we ran a horrible candidate against Scott Brown for Senate. And, that's when, and then things started going downhill. Let's see. A lot of us non-Americans here, USA, we are worried about you. We're worried about us too, but we appreciate the worry, because we also have worries. It's not Hakuna Matata anymore. Yeah, look here, nobody challenging anything is just so sus. Yeah, it's terrible.
Let's see. I know voters have the right to know who their elected officials vote, but I think secret ballot is more effective government. Imagine if they didn't have to fear voting their conscience. Yeah. I mean, that's what they did for who was going to become the next Senate Majority Leader, is they did do a secret ballot that way, but that's internal party politics. That's not necessarily on the public information. But, yeah, it might be nice. There might be some advantages to being able to have a secret ballot, to be able to force certain things. And I think in some circumstances they are allowed to call for a secret ballot just because they want to be able to make sure that, you know, people can vote their conscience and not vote for the party line. But at the end of the day, I do think, again, sunshine is the best disinfectant. And unfortunately, that means that we'll have to have politicians who are afraid to vote their conscience because they're too afraid of what their voters might say the next election cycle. So, see, Nick Rich, progressive humanity requires cooperation and peace, not constantly fighting. It is possible. Yeah, but how's that going to happen under Trump? America must remain a democracy is gone worldwide. I mean, let's hope that we don't lose democracy worldwide. But again, you're going to have Donald Trump, who's going to, you know, I've used the word acquiesce a lot today. Acquiesce is the word of the day. Donald Trump is more than willing to acquiesce to Putin. He ceded power to him in Syria. He tried to weaken NATO for Putin the last time around. What's going to happen next? We don't know. All we do know is that Trump is Putin's little bitch, and therefore will do whatever Putin wants. Swifties will take him down. Well, again, just a reminder for Wednesday's show, we are going to be having Swifties on the show. We're going to be talking about a Taylor Swift thing that took place in New Orleans when she came down for her 3-day concert, and we'll be discussing the issue that happened with a lot of the guests who came in and who feel that they were scammed by a particular person from the New Orleans metropolitan area. So we'll be talking about that on Wednesday. And I don't know how that will flip into politics, but it's too juicy of a show to pass up. It's too juicy of a topic to pass up. And then anything that happens politically, we'll talk after the fact. We'll talk the Swift thing first, and then we'll talk about politics afterwards, unless it somehow gets wrangled up together. But, you know, we'll see. But I think it's going to be an interesting show. No, I'm not interviewing Taylor Swift. I'm just interviewing somebody who is part... I don't know if she herself was part of the people who got scammed or not, but she's knowledgeable about kind of all of the things going on as it pertains to the people that allegedly got scammed by this one in particular person. And we'll be talking about that more on Wednesday. So, but it's possible, just saying, that if I put something like, you know, Taylor Swift in the title of the show about what's going on, maybe it might bring in more viewers too. That's another side reason why I'm thinking to have this as the first topic we talk about on the show on Wednesday. But let me tell you, even if you're not interested in Taylor Swift at all, this is kind of some juicy shit. This is some absolutely grade A, just craziness that has gone on here with this person who I have also said on a different issue scammed me too. So, see, resistance is not futile. Relax, but don't fall asleep. No, it's not. It's not futile, not at all. But we do have to do it. We have to show that people are willing to do it. Maybe if we all scream really, really loud. What if you say the Pee Wee Herman's secret word? What happens to say a secret word? You scream real loud. Anyway, sorry. Trucker John is here. I really hope he can have a big blue wave in 26 and take back Congress. Otherwise, I think we're going to be totally screwed for a long time, maybe even permanently. Yeah, I mean, but again, what will Donald Trump do in the next 2 years to prevent free and fair elections from going forward? Right? I mean, with this unitary or whatever power that the Supreme Court has now given, the near almost unlimited power that the Supreme Court has given Donald Trump, who's to say what he can do or what fear tactics he'll be able to use? There is one thing I said. Remember when the Egypt military basically stopped the horrible person from taking over, and instead, pass it over to the people of Egypt so that they could have a, decent, potentially ruler or whatever, and they supported the military stood up against the elected person for the people. Just to remind the military, y'all have a responsibility to only follow legal orders, and you have a responsibility to stand up for the people and the Constitution of this country, not the president. You take an oath to the Constitution, and to the people of this country, not the president. So, it'll be a shame if we have to rely on the military to do what's needed to be done to prevent total and extreme just dictatorship from taking place. But that's their responsibility. They are required to stand up against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And if somebody tries to prop himself up as a dictator, which Donald Trump has said that he wants to do, it would be the responsibility of the military ultimately to stop that. And even stand up to their own commander-in-chief. So. It's about to be a actual war zone in America, I fear. I hope not, but I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not. I don't believe it outside the realm of possibility. Be scary. I mean, one of the things, it would be very scary because what do we do sitting here in the middle of red Louisiana, even though New Orleans is a blue city, we're in the middle of red Louisiana. We'd have, in order to get to a blue area, we'd have to cross many, many, many red areas to escape, if you will. So, Jeff Curry, my theory, Trump is going to do everything he can to stop a 2026 election. I mean, again, a lot of people have said that in the past. A lot of people thought that George Bush would never let go of power. A lot of people thought, that Obama wouldn't let go of power from the other side. And that those were fears that were unfounded. But again, you never heard George W. Bush say that he wanted to be a dictator on day one. Never heard Obama say that he wanted to be a dictator either. But you have heard Donald Trump say that he wanted to be a dictator. You've heard Donald Trump talk about how he wants a military parade in his honor. You've heard Donald Trump talk about many things that basically makes the Donald Trump presidency that's impending scary AF. Let's look here. A coming day after Christmas. So excited. Coming where? Military has a lot of far-right Christian evangelicals. I wouldn't depend on them to save us from Trump's dismantling of democracy. Yeah, they have a lot of that, sure. I mean, you had Pete Hegseth as one example of one of those people. But, of course, it's hypocrisy because, again, what about the allegations made against him? Of course, he's also claims to be, Christian or whatever, but his second wife was pregnant while his first wife was in the middle of divorcing him. Yeah, not great, dude. You're not showing yourself to be the true standing upright Christian that you are, or that you claim to be. Let's see, I did want to look up one more thing before we left. Because you had a video, I think, of Ginger Gaetz, who is Matt Gaetz' wife, who has his back and thinks he'll do a great job in charge of the Justice Department. But let's see. I want to look this up real quick because, I mean, honestly, she looks really young. I mean, Matt Gaetz was born in 82, which, I mean, it's fine. I mean, that's only 6 years younger than me. So, yeah, but let's go ahead and just scroll down here to the personal life, blah, 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 doop-a-doop-a-doo. Come on. I don't want to know about the political stuff. We all know about his political stuff. We all know about his legal controversies and all the stuff that has gone on with him being, whatever. Let's see. In June 2020, Apparently prompted by an argument with then Representative Cedric Richmond, Gaetz had a 19-year-old Cuban named Nestor Galban, who he regarded as a son, has been living with him for about 7 years. Gaetz later clarified that Nestor is his ex-girlfriend's younger brother, and Nestor spent times with his sister, Gaetz' family friend, and Gaetz himself, who are not related genetically or legally. Our relationship as a family is defined by our love for each other, not any paperwork. 2016, he called Galban Nestor a local student. In 2017, he called him my helper. See, in December 2020, Gaetz announced his engagement to girlfriend Ginger Luckey, the sister of Oculus VR founder and major Republican donor Palmer Luckey. They then married in August 21. Gaetz is a Baptist, although he doesn't act as such. Let's see. Trying to find where this is, and it's not showing me the information. Let's see. Yeah, he is married. Who would marry him? I don't know, but somebody absolutely did marry them. Look here, he's 10 years younger than my son. Puke. Yeah. Let's. Ginger met her husband at Trump's Mar-a-Lago. She met a Republican congressman husband at the former president's Mar-a-Lago club, the same location which he would propose. He proposed at Mar-a-Lago too. Isn't that so sweet? Donald threw a fundraiser at the time. Ginger said her mother dragged her to the event. Following the night, Ginger accompanied her future husband to a birthday party of Trump Jr.'s girlfriend, Kimberly Guilfoyle. On the proposal, it didn't come as a surprise. I had sort of saw it coming. Ginger was a student at Harvard Business School. According to her LinkedIn profile, Ginger attended Harvard Business School. She previously studied economics and accounting at the University of California, Santa Barbara from 2012 to 2016. So 2012 would mean she was 18 in 2012. And what, they got engaged, or he engaged in December 2020. So that means she was 26 at the time, I guess. So not as young as you might think she would be, I suppose. But, you know, it was worth going into at least a little bit, because there's no telling with Matt Gaetz as to, you know, you have all these, you know, big superstars like, was that comedian Dane Cook? Dane Cook started dating his wife, or his, like, I think now wife, when she was 18, but she had been hanging out at his house for years prior. Yeah, that's some grooming shit right there. So, see, Moskowitz also voted to censor another Democrat, Rashid Shaheed. He said Gaetz will make a strong AG. He knows the job, and Trump picked a good one. Blimey, man, unbelievable. Yeah, we'll see what the full audio says with what Moskowitz said. We'll have to look that up, and maybe we'll talk about that after the special topic of the show on Monday, or Wednesday, I mean. Look here, I'm sure this is all going to turn out fine, a-hole. Pretty much. See, Jojo Mojo had to change my Facebook accounts. Don't see harassment and death threats that have been nonstop since Trump won the election. I'm so sick and tired of suffering. Yeah, I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible that the deplorables now feel emboldened to do all the stuff that they might have been afraid to do. Then again, you know, I reported some guy for threats of violence and anti-Semitism on Facebook. And only one of them was actually processed as actually, and I had to appeal it, and they said, yeah, it was against our standards, but the other two were not against community standards. So it's fine to be anti-Semitic on Facebook, apparently. So he took over my Costco for that bad movie. Nice. I've seen some of it. He sounded like he was being sarcastic more than anything. Again, I'll take a look. I didn't know about it. I'll take a look, and we'll come back on it Wednesday. But let's go ahead, and it's 9:45. I have some stuff to do before I go to bed tonight. unfortunately. So we're going to say that this is the end of today's episode of Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from Left, That's Right. I'll be back on nerdydan.com, on Twitch, twitch.tv/nerdydan.com tomorrow, playing some games or whatever. But if people come in and want to talk politics, we'll talk politics too. And that's cool as well. Otherwise, we'll be back here Wednesday again we'll be starting off with our special guest to talk about the Swift Holiday House or whatever it was called, and we will go from there. So until next time I see you, this is Dan Zimmerman with Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.